Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj,
And my name is James.
and we're getting there slowly and surely. Two more game weeks to go. Game week 37 plus, game week 38 plus. We have one more game left in game week 36, which is the West Ham Watford game. From an FPL point of view, I think for a lot of people, it's not that consequential. You may have a lot of Fabianski owners or a few other Ishmael Sarr potentially, but not that important. But game week 36 is almost over. Um, yeah, James, how are we doing?
I'm not too bad, thank you, mate. Spurs won. Wasn't the worst FPL game week ever for myself, although you've had a very good one, mate.
I
Um,
wouldn't say very good. It's not massively better than yours, but
listen,
it is better.
game week rank inside the top 500,000 is good. Don't worry about the score is less than 60 or whatever. The
Yep.
score of 55 this game week is very good, mate. Well done.
And we both have. So I've got still Mason Greenwood coming in for a couple of points on an auto sub for Kevin De Bruyne, and I think you've got Adama Traore coming in for an auto sub
Oh, they've
for
still not
Kevin De
updated
Bruyne.
it.
No, because the game week's not finished, is it?
Oh, of course. Listen, you're easy to forget, man. I forgot about that. Yeah, I've got two of a. Have we both got the same 2 points coming in as well? But you've
Yeah,
got
2 points.
Fabianski.
2 points
You've
coming in.
got
But I've got
Fabianski
Fabi to
tonight
play
as well.
tonight, so it's hotting up. I think the gap between us is what 14 points.
Yeah,
um, plus Fabianski. So if he gets a clean sheet and it gets to 20 points, then I'll feel confident going into the last 2 weeks. Anything less than 15 points is literally a Bruno Fernandes captaincy in differential. So a lot of crazy stuff can happen in the last 2 game weeks. I would want more than 30 points. I'd put money on myself to beat you. Less than 30, I still don't feel confident till we get over the line. But it's not been a bad game week. I'll be honest with you. Tell me about yours first.
just looking at your ranks, Suj, 157,000 after
Yeah, it's
last
not
night's
bad.
update. That's really good, mate. Well done.
Yeah,
Um, I'm not a million miles behind you, as you just said.
no.
My overall rank at the moment is 202,000, but I'm basically done for the week. So you'll obviously extend that lead tonight. My game week was 50 points. Captain Jesus, who was my highest scorer as well. So to get 50 out of an 8 pointer being top scorer, I'm quite happy
Mm.
with. Danny Ings last night, Bruno assist, Robertson assist, Doherty extremely laughable assist, and Harry Mcguire booking with a clean sheet was basically my returns. 0 for Trent. Traore comes in for De Bruyne for me.
Yep.
It's a better week than most. I can't sit here and complain. The one for me now is I need to get you. I need to get you, and I'm in danger because I think right now you're right, 14 points ahead of me. And my major concern is that you have Anthony Martial and you don't. Anthony
He's a
Martial,
beast at the moment.
Anthony Martial, I have to give it the other way, right? Because I always sit here and go, that guy needs a shag. I reckon that guy's been shagging a lot. He's actually now got the same amount of FPL points since the restart as Bruno Fernandes.
Wow, that's an interesting stat to throw out there, actually, James. Same number of points as Bruno Fernandes. I've owned both since game week 32, which was the week, 1 week after the restart, 2 weeks after the restart. And a lot of people have said you'll own Martial and he will annoy the hell out of you. But he'll have these moments where he'll go crazy. Trust me, he's returned every single game week, so I haven't had any real issues with Martial at the moment.
You must have missed the
Um,
sulk at Brighton then.
yeah, well, it's fine. I still will take whatever I get out of him. 3 points is still better than 2 points.
Well, I mean, over the last 6 game weeks, it's 6 goals and 4 assists.
Mm.
It's not a mess about anymore. Do you know what he looks like? He now looks to me like he's producing everything that I think we all thought that he was always capable of.
I mean,
And
Manchester United bought him as a 19-year-old, so he was young when he moved to Manchester United. Yeah, him and Rashford. I mean, the second goal, the intricate passing was fantastic yesterday.
he needs 11 more FPL points in the final 2 game weeks to hit 200. I don't suppose that's what's going through his head at the moment. But should he finish on 200 FPL points? That's big, really
Very, very good
big.
season.
So fair game to him. And I can't get to him. I simply cannot get to him unless I was to remove Bruno Fernandes,
Interesting. I ended up.
which
Oh,
is not something that I might not do, but that just feels so sideways to me. The
yeah,
reason,
because the fear you
well,
have of me owning Martial, as soon as you own Martial and don't own Fernandez, it'll be fear of me owning Bruno Fernandez.
exactly,
Because Bruno Fernandez has been off his game for the last 2 weeks. Yet he picked up an assist yesterday, and he picked up an assist in the previous game. So he'll still tick along with 5 6 pointers. And you are Manchester United. I still think have capabilities of keeping the odd clean sheet. One of the next two games, I reckon they might keep a clean sheet.
I also know that you'll captain Anthony Martial this week.
I haven't even looked at my captaincy for the upcoming week, James. I'll
I'm
be honest
telling
with
you,
you.
you will captain Anthony Martial this game week. We're playing poker now, mate.
Nah, I think I'm gonna keep with Bruno Fernandez. He's just the safer, more reliable, sensible option. Um, I wouldn't recommend it for anyone really. I don't know. I don't make recommendations for people anymore. After I didn't recommend that anyone buys Antonio, but they've got the FA Cup game. They are kind of in the driving seat for top four, but top four is tricky now. I mean, they do need to win both of their last two games to ensure that they're going to get top four. So we will get a beating next year.
Not necessarily.
Oh, I suppose, yeah, you're right. If Chelsea lose against Liverpool, then Leicester and Man United can draw in the final game to get them through. If they win
Leicester
both
and
their
United
games,
both win their 37 games,
So,
yeah.
yeah, it's still a little bit up in the air and a little bit tricky.
One advantage I do have over you is, I can't get to Martial. So, I mean, essentially, we're at my Harry Mcguire against Anthony Martial. And if you're wondering, no, I can't take a direct -4 from Harry Mcguire to Anthony Martial. Just cannot work for me financially unless I give up one of my Man City guys. And that's basically where my advantage is, because for your Phil Foden, I've got Raheem Sterling. And it's not to say that Foden can't outscore Sterling, but I know which one of them's more likely to go off, basically.
Correct.
You've got Raul Jimenez, I've got Danny Ings.
Yes.
Now, I'm hoping that other half of hers is going to decide that roughly at about Monday morning that she wants to give birth. That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, true. How many transfers do you have going into this game week, James? 2 still?
I have one free transfer because I made the two moves to get Jesus in, which was obviously downgrading Laporte. I went for Lamptey of Brighton, and then I went Jimenez up to Jesus, which you can say, there's not much gain on that, but I would not have captained Jimenez, sorry.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, Jimenez
is kind of worked.
Jimenez sits in the same category as Robertson for me. Imagine this. I mean, I got a 4-pointer of Doherty, who only played 20 minutes. I got a 6-pointer out of Robertson, and Liverpool didn't keep a clean sheet. In fact, they conceded 2 goals. So defensive, and Trent was a 0, but the Trent's ownership so high that I think that doesn't really matter. So to pick up returns from both my defenders when one came off the bench and the other didn't keep a clean sheet is pretty decent. Pulisic started the game week well with an assist. Martial, an 8-pointer. Fernandez, 6 pointers, captain. Jimenez picked up maximum bonus points after getting his goal. And Jesus I owned as well. So a nice spread across the points. Foden was a disappointment. Trent was a disappointment. Fabianski keeps a clean sheet tonight. That turns a good game week into a great game week. Off we go. I've got 2 transfers going into this game week, James. So I've still got the opportunity to maneuver a few situations. My starting 11 in the last 4 or 5 weeks has been consistently the same, and it's been doing fine. I've been either side of 70 to 80 points every single game week consistently. And because I've got this spread of players, rather than having a Salah or a Mane or a couple of big power players, I think that's really helped. That plus having the right 2 Manchester United assets in Fernandes and Martial consistently over the last few weeks has really helped as well. So I'm not sure what direction I'm going to take it in. I'll probably only make the 1 transfer and then roll into 2 into game week 38 and give myself 2 options of players to pick off.
It's the right move, in my opinion. Yeah, hold the 2 back for last week. Where I'm at now is a strategy, because this isn't about overall now. This is about me trying to beat you, generally. Okay. And this is far more fun. I want to read you.
I'm on the overall. I still think I can get top 100k. If Fabianski keeps a clean sheet today, there's an outside chance. If I nail the right captain, I could get top 100k. But there's still 30 points in it, which is a lot to make up in 2 weeks.
I want to read you a team for this weekend and tell me what you think of it. Nick Pope, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Phil Bardsley, Eric Peters, Raheem Sterling, Riyad Mahrez, Mo Salah, Sadio Mane, Marcus Rashford, Eddie Nketiah, Danny Ings.
For this weekend.
Mm-hmm. That is what I might be looking at for a free hit. Now you might go, where's your Martials and all that stuff? Suj James, none of them players.
So you're literally going with a completely sideways strategy.
And this is where it becomes a strategy of, right, do you know what? I don't necessarily want to join you on the Martial, but I'll pick 11 players that I think might be able to beat you.
Yeah, go for it.
Now, I'm not going to do that. Just to say, I'm not.
Why would you tease? Why would you tease everybody and then not
because I'm going to do it in game week 38, and I ain't going to reveal what my 11 is going to be if you're sitting there with 2 free transfers. That's my plan. I think to kind of answer an overall of is it better to free hit this week or next, what I'm doing there in terms of I'm focusing on a mini league objective is I'm banking on Burnley keeping a clean sheet, for example. I'm banking on Salah and Mane to go big. Now, I know that you're definitely not going to have Salah and Mane at the end. Do I want them against Chelsea, or do I want them against a Newcastle side that's conceding goals for fun and have massive defensive issues? I want them in game week 38. I think...
Are you sure? Because they're having the trophy celebration against Chelsea. So, after the trophy celebration against Chelsea midweek next week, they'll be out on the lash again, James, because they'll have their medals.
You tell me.
They'll all be hungover, mate.
Yeah.
They'll all be hungover.
You tell me if Mo Salah and Sadio Mane are going to be 2 of them players out on the piss. I don't think they are, mate.
They can't get 100 points.
Mo Salah definitely don't drink it. I don't think Mane does either.
Mo Salah, I know, doesn't. They can't get 100 points. They can't beat City's record. They've got their trophy. And you wanna pile into them?
Not really. But I think
we're playing poker here.
On the objective of what I'd want to do on that final game week. Now I might decide, should I have big gains on you this week? I don't know. Let's say Pope saves a penalty and pulls out a 15-pointer versus your Fabianski 1-pointer that you're likely to get. That's the difference, right? And then suddenly we're level, and I might look at it very differently. But the only way I'm going to beat you in that final game week, if the gap is 15 or 20 points, is not by doing the same things as you. It's by doing very different things.
You're right. The danger is with that strategy, it's the consistent players since the restart that have still been delivering. It's a handful of players that keep picking up the points. So you can try and be clever and move away from it. But that doesn't mean that Fernandes, Martial, Jimenez, all of these guys can't return as well. In terms of Fabianski, don't forget, you were the one that pointed out a fantastic rotation between Fabianski and Martinez. So I'll be playing Martinez next game week, actually.
That are free scoring, so I'm not worried about that.
Free scoring Villa.
You're quite right. You obviously will be playing Martinez certainly this week. That was part of the deal with this rotation was, that Man United fixture's a pain for Fabianski. Martinez is the perfect rotation. So, you're absolutely spot on there. Maybe he'll get sent off and Pope will save a penalty. That's probably a better hope for me.
You never know. Martinez has been doing okay, actually, recently. But this is it. Crunch time of the season. I reckon a lot of people are in a similar boat to this.
Yeah. And it depends on your own objectives in terms of what you want. You might be... I think... For example, I think if we were the other way round and you were 15 points behind me, I think your objective right now would be, this is my best overall rank. I can do my personal best. That would be more important to you at the moment. Whereas I'm likely to be now remarkably from being 800 odd thousands at restart to now being in a position where I'm likely to beat where I finished last year inside the 200,000, I think. So for me now, what's my objective, which is normally OR, is normally right. It's 50 quid on this. And I need the banter in 10 days' time to sit on the podcast and go, yeah, mate, Salah and Mane, they didn't get on the piss. You know that?
Yeah, it's going to be tricky. It's going to be tight. I think both seasons... I'm just trying to have a look back at how many points difference between us there was at the end of last season. Let's Let's
Oh,
have a
that could
look
take
here.
you some time, mate.
Nah, it'll take 2 seconds. 2116 is what I finished on. But I seem to remember it was only 20 points, which over the course of an entire season, um, it's what you'd almost call margin of error. It's like very, very tight.
It
Um,
wasn't that much to the
two
end.
two three six 211.
The other major
Yeah, it was
benefit,
last year.
just for everybody anyway, in terms of free hitting in 38 rather than this week, is the lack of information this week is brutal with them FA Cup
Yeah,
semi-finals.
it's the spread, isn't it? The fixtures are over almost a week, right? There's
It,
6 7 days it's spread
it
over.
makes a
So
couple of things very awkward this week. One is captaincy, and if I can make one recommendation this week, I would strongly advise captaining someone like Danny Ings or Matt Doherty, who you can be 99% sure, yes, they have a good fixture. B, obviously, importantly, they will start. So I think, although those wouldn't perhaps normally be players on your radar for vice captaincy, I think Doherty, for example, is going to be my vice captaincy. Rested against Burnley in midweek. He definitely starts against the Palace side, who were a little bit unfortunate last night, if we're honest. But yeah, that looks like a locked in Doherty clean sheet there. And if he ends up being the captain because Bruno or Sterling or Jesus or whomever rolls their ankle in the cup semi-final this weekend, then so be it. I think that's a far better strategy than going, oh, I'll go Fernandez and Martial because they can't both get injured. Yeah, they can, or they could
yeah,
both
yeah,
get left out. I know, for example, is my cap playing Gary Robinson, our Manchester United correspondent. He's been on our Patreon Slack channel, and he said he thinks that Solskjaer is going to mass rotate in the cup game now because getting in the top four is just far more important for Manchester United. So
agreed.
he thinks that a lot of them will get left out. Now they'll still get on the pitch. It could be they come on after an hour and it finishes a draw, right? And they still play an hour. And then there's only a 3-day turnaround to West Ham. So I wouldn't read too much in it. I could look at it now and go, do you know what? I don't think Jesus starts for Manchester City this weekend. Therefore, he's probably the best shout for me. And I think that's probably where I'm going to bust the captaincy is because of the potential of it and take the risk. But I could be completely wrong. He could end up playing 120 minutes and then he doesn't appear at Watford at all. So, I mean, and we've all held this opinion. Oh, there's 5 subs now. They all get on the pitch always, don't they? Well, Bruyne didn't this week, for example.
No, of
So
course.
there is a small
They
amount
were
of
comfortably
importance
winning, so
in your bench. And that's why as well, I think my likely free transfer this week is just to fix something on my bench that's a little bit stronger. I've got a million spare to upgrade a Traore to a McNeil, for example, and just have something that's a little bit more secure as first sub. That's where I'm likely to be. Because otherwise, other than the fact I haven't got Martial, I actually really like my team at the moment.
yeah. I will be putting Mason Greenwood back into my starting 11 and dropping Phil Foden down to the bench. And then I can leave my first 11 as it is. However, I may move Jimenez on this week for Danny Ings. I like his last two, so I don't mind getting Danny Ings now for the last two. And that will give me a little bit of money. Soyuncu's sitting on as third sub at the moment with a red flag. Obviously, he's suspended. I don't know if I can be bothered to fix it, James. I don't need him. I've got Creswell and Greenwood with my benches, or Foden and Creswell. Those two are likely to play. I just don't feel like I need to fix that problem. I might just ride it out for the last 2 Gameweeks with no third substitute.
That's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fine. You should be focusing on the 11.
Exactly.
I'm struggling to improve my 11. I think that's part of the point. The player I obviously want is Martial. The only way I can get to Martial is by removing one of the City guys. And it's still going to take me a -4 because I need to remove a Mcguire or Greenwood. I'm not prepared to do it. You could look at it and go, oh, Sterling to Martial, Greenwood to Chris Wood. I'm not sure there's a benefit in that because for me to lose Sterling against you is when you haven't got him at the moment. That's not what I want to be doing. So I need to get away from, he's the ideal player at the moment. I need to go with what I've got this week, then reassess, take all the information from the semi-finals and the league games, because I will watch 11 games between Saturday evening and Wednesday night. The only game I will probably miss is Brighton and Newcastle on Monday, and I will watch every minute of every game ready for that free hit at the end. That's another
Exciting.
benefit as well in terms of this is a good week for the eye test because there's only 2 games are on at the same time, which is Sheffield United, Everton, and Brighton, Newcastle on Monday. I'm coming for you.
Appreciate it. Go for it. I've heard it before. You were 100 and something points ahead at one point. You actually, to be fair, turned a 40-point deficit into a 20-point lead in one game week, and then proceeded to turn a 20-point lead into a 14-point
Yeah,
deficit
because I
as it
haven't got
stands.
Anthony Martial. That's why.
Um, there's some other interesting things to think about now. If tonight's game, West Ham Watford, plays out as a draw, then by the time we play Manchester United next Wednesday, we could be safe. If Brighton then lose against, Bournemouth lose against Southampton and Aston Villa lose against Arsenal, that's the title race, the relegation battle done. We'll be 4 points clear, and they'll only have 3 points to play for. So we'll be super drunk. So Manchester United against a team that have just been saved from relegation with nothing to play for, and United to play for the top four, could be an even bigger slapping. Imagine West Ham with nothing to play for. Like, we play like we've got nothing to play for most of the time, anyways. It's probably not too different, but this could be dangerous if we really have nothing to play for. It's kind of like why I like the Watford game now today. As much as a draw for each side wouldn't be a bad result, a victory for one of us saves us.
Oh, definitely for you. And the reason
Goal difference.
exactly that. Whereas Bournemouth are very capable of getting Watford's goal difference, I think, especially when you consider Watford have got to play Manchester City next. You're far enough away from a goal difference. It's almost like an extra half a point, basically. So if you win today, you're definitely safe.
Agreed.
If Watford win, in theory, they're safe as well. If Watford lose, they're going to get nervous. Really nervous. They could go into the Manchester City game, for example, say Bournemouth win by, I think it's, have a look, Suj, what's the difference between Bournemouth, Watford goal difference? It's not huge.
It's going to be 2 or 3. I'll put it up.
It's not big, but let's say Bournemouth win, say Watford get beat tonight and then Bournemouth beat Southampton by a goal. They might end up looking at that Manchester City fixture and thinking, we'll take a 1-0 defeat here if they can.
It's 4 goals at the moment between Watford and Bournemouth. -21 plays -25. And with Villa, it's -21 plays -27.
So think of that then. They could go into the last game, Watford and Bournemouth, and in theory could be level, and it might only be like 2 goals in it or so. With Watford away to Arsenal, Bournemouth away to Everton.
Yeah.
And then again, I'm not saying Bournemouth can't win at Everton. Of course they can. But you wouldn't see them going there and smashing them. Watford could get smashed at Arsenal though. So there's loads of knock-ons. So would your captaincy decision this game week, would it be influenced in an odd way by things that might happen at West Ham tonight?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you win, are you basically definitely going Fernandes or Martial then? Is that your thinking?
At the moment, Fernandes is top of my list for the consistency and reliability. He just starts every game. I know he's had a couple of games where he's come off a little bit early, but United have been doing all right in those. I mean, Southampton actually was a bit of a cock up, but and he hasn't been going what I would say 100% in the last couple of games either. So maybe he's saving a little bit back. So yeah, if we've got nothing to play for, if we win tonight, then I'll be very strongly looking at a Manchester United asset. But I'm not a fan of picking a player for midweek next week, despite City and United being the 2 options there. So Danny Ings against Bournemouth could be a really, really good captaincy shout. If I sell Jimenez for Danny Ings, then I may put the armband on Danny Ings just to be safe.
You're trying to block me again, are you?
Well, it's a sensible move, right? Home tie in the final game against...
I think if you think he's the best shout, great, do it. I think that's what the vice captaincy's for, isn't it?
I don't know if it's a best shout, because the problem with the vice captaincy, James, is any of these guys could still get the odd minute, and that would be worse.
Yeah, I get that.
That would be worse if you go with a Martial or Fernandes and they only get 10 minutes or something like that. Could be worse. It could be worse.
Yeah, I think there's an upside though. I think I'm likely to go for Jesus, and one of the reasons is what I'm about to go with here. So since Watford came up in 2015, they've met 9 times in the league. There was also obviously the 6-0 in the FA Cup final last year, if you remember.
I do remember because we had a live show.
City have won every game. In that time, they've won 5-0 at Watford, 6-0 at Watford, beat them 8-0 in the league this year, and obviously 6-0 in the FA Cup final as well. City aren't bothered about what's going on with the other team. Now, we'll talk about this in a bit. They were very fortunate to beat Bournemouth this week, but I think you'll find that the team that plays at Watford on Tuesday will be a little bit stronger. Now, predicting it before the semi-final is really difficult. However, if my theory on Jesus is correct, that I've been going on about, that's the guy that I should be captaining. And I think that's the way I'll go.
Interesting. What's to stop you going with the safest City asset, especially considering he had a week off in Kevin De Bruyne? Because he's been the most explosive potentially in some games. Do you think, is there any eye on going with Kevin De Bruyne as captaincy next week?
Yeah, could do. I think the fact that he didn't, return at Brighton is not something that I'd particularly worry about. He's obviously had the break. I think that's kind of to be expected before Arsenal. I think what we might be leaning towards here is right now it's about sharpness ahead of playing Real Madrid potentially a week after an FA Cup final should they beat Arsenal on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I wonder then if we're just looking at De Bruyne playing this weekend against Norwich in the final, then Real Madrid. Because obviously De Bruyne is pivotal to them. So it's not to say that he won't play at Watford. I think he probably will. With De Bruyne, his fitness is excellent anyway. It's just the fear of him picking up an injury. I'm not sure you can walk around with that so much. But I think for me, the upsides, you've got De Bruyne as well, right?
I have indeed.
Yeah. Jesus, I think. I just got to take a chance on it.
Post-lockdown, he started the Arsenal game with a 14-pointer. He had a rest against Burnley. He played only half an hour. Came back, picked up a goal in the next game, a goal and assist in the next game, then had a little break. Came back and picked up an assist and then had only 60 minutes and a break. Every game that he's played from the beginning, he's picked up a goal or an assist or both. And even the games that he's come back in after a little rest, obviously he's returned. So he's so safe and reliable.
The big returns when he's ended up playing a little bit higher up the pitch against two notoriously bigger sides. One, obviously, Liverpool, and the other one being Arsenal, right?
Yes.
He hasn't actually banged against any of the real so-called weaker sides since we've resumed.
No, but I mean, Southampton was a difficult game all round for City. Had he been on the pitch...
We only played the last half hour.
Yeah, had he been on the pitch, it could have been very different because they did create chances.
Well, if he starts the game, because he is still levels above even their squad rotation players, then they probably win the game in the first place. There is quite a lot behind. If you look at City's bad results this season, you'll look for a few of them. Oh, where was De Bruyne? Think Norwich away and stuff like that. Oh, it's only Norwich. We only need him in the last half hour. And he's come back and bit them a few times this season. Southampton was another one of them games.
Yeah, but what you mentioned earlier there about him needing the sharpness for the Real Madrid game in Champions League, I think will be a factor. So I can see him pretty much playing all of the games now between the end of the season. Definitely the Watford game. So Kevin De Bruyne might actually be a good outside shout. I don't think his captaincy number is going to be particularly high next week, James.
I will captain.
The reason being because I think a lot of people like yourself have, and me, have Jesus and Sterling, some slightly more attacking City assets in the sense they play higher up the pitch.
I will captain Jesus or Fernandes. That's the way I'll go. And my vice captain will be Doherty or Ings.
I'm going to captain, I'm not sure yet, but I could be Kevin De Bruyne or Fernandes. And if I buy Danny Ings, then I think vice captain will go on Danny Ings.
Good luck. Should we talk some games?
Let's talk about some games. Obviously, there's quite there's less and less relevance to certain teams now from an FPL point of view. Chelsea won, Norwich 0. We spoke about it on our Patreon podcast a little bit. It wasn't an easy day out for Chelsea in the end. They weren't their free-flowing best, but the higher-owned Pulisic picked up a return. Giroud actually had a good game, good hold-up play. He had a number of chances. He snatched at a few. And he is, a lot of people are saying now that he's the best striker there at Chelsea and the one they want to see start. He's living up to the hype. 4 goals since lockdown.
Is that living up to the hype?
Well,
the thing that I was most
he's
impressed...
living up to being picked ahead of Tammy Abraham, who's had a good season by all accounts.
No brainer. Yeah, but Tammy Abraham's not been the same since the roundabouts November, December. And
Mm.
since Giroud's been playing regularly since February, it's no coincidence that the returns of Pulisic, Willian, etc. have improved. We keep talking about bringing other players into games. I don't think, for example, that goal on Tuesday, I'm not saying he can't score it, but I think Giroud bullies Tim Klose a bit, and Klose needs to concentrate on the ball. And he's so worried about what he's going to do. And his movement, for not the most athletic of forward, should we say, he's very good in around the penalty area. He's very underrated in terms of his movement. Not surprised that he scored. Anyone who went on, though, probably feels a bit disappointed. Two shots on target, 5 off target, no bonus. 6 points is probably not what you were hoping for. But Giroud is a player who doesn't feel like he's ever going to get more than one to me. And I think the danger of going for Chelsea assets, and you can probably answer this better as a Pulisic owner, is do you now want to think of moving away? The thing that actually impressed me most about Giroud's performance on Tuesday was his goal celebration. The one saying, sign me up, or someone else sign me, one or the other. But I really, really loved the fact that Jorginho went to cuddle him and he pushed him away. He was like, nah, that's on my man Pulisic's made me that goal. He gets the first hug. I love that. I really hate players who get great assists and they go and run the other way.
Yeah.
It really bugs me.
The commentary made very little of Pulisic's cross. They were talking about how Giroud had got a header closer and put the finish in and put himself in the right place and been physical. I kept saying, like, talk about this cross, because I thought the cross was amazing. Right? Laid it on a plate. Giroud had to get his head there and it was going in if he made any contact. But they didn't talk about it much on the commentary. I mean, Pulisic.
I think
cross.
partly Closer should still go and head the ball when he gets obsessed with Giroud. Defenders do that.
Yeah.
You get two types of defenders. One who don't want to get involved in the air. You'll see this a lot of set pieces where we talked about this with, say, the Alderweireld goal last week. It's actually probably a bad example. Think more the Craig Dawson goal for Watford against Norwich, actually, where Lewis is marking Dawson. Lewis is never going to beat him in the air, and his job basically is to try and stop him getting a run at the thing. And I think this is the opposite of that, where Closer just gets obsessed with the player. I don't want to get involved in that duel, basically. And Giroud's done him all ends up. They're pulling each other. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. Let's talk about Burnley 1, Wolves 1.
Are you keeping Pulisic? Sorry, just clarify.
Yes.
Liverpool and Wolves.
Yeah, I'm a Sean Dyche type guy. I don't like to change a winning team, and he's got me returns every week. So if Chelsea get an attacking return, then he's likely to be involved. And don't forget what they did to City barely a week and a bit ago.
Does that mean we can call you the Asian Mourinho now then? Or Sean Dyche is the ginger one?
Because I'm the Asian Kevin De Bruyne.
Oh, yeah, of course.
The Indian Kevin De Bruyne. That's when I'm playing, though. So, yeah, when I'm managing, I can be... I'll grow a goatee. If you beat me in FPL this season, then...
You sure you want to do this?
I'll grow a goatee just for fun. I'm not very good at growing beards, but I will. And take a picture of me next to Sean Dyche. Maybe I need to shave my head a little bit as well.
In return,
I'm going to keep Pulisic, and it's because I don't like transferring out players when they've been returning. And Chelsea did okay against Man City on the counter attack, and I think they'll do okay against Liverpool on the counter attack as well. From what they've been saying on TV and stuff, they're hyping this game up with a big parade, not a parade, but there's like a gala type celebration at the end or whatever. You can't tell me Liverpool's mind's not going to be thinking about this trophy lifting ceremony at the end of the game that's being hyped up as something quite big. If Chelsea are on it and don't get distracted by all of that nonsense, I think they could do okay.
I think Liverpool tear them apart.
Wow. The same way they tore apart Arsenal a couple of days ago.
No. Sloppiness. Complete sloppiness. Just think.
Can I just say not for the first time since they've won the title?
Yes, this very, very, very true. It is very true. Just think this time, like to know they're getting a trophy after the game when it's kind of as like FPL Local or Dan, our Liverpool correspondent, said, like he has felt flattered on what he'd hoped. And the one thing I said on Clash of Correspondents to him, you might feel a bit different once you've got that trophy. Trust me, Klopp will have them properly motivated for that game on Wednesday. It doesn't mean, and I think what you highlight there about Chelsea on the counter-attack against City, we also spoke to a rotation FPL about that in terms of it being their strength. I agree with that. However, my personal would be, can I improve my team this week? Yes, I think Pulisic is expendable for you. And I think the same will apply to people who've got Giroud, or, if people have got Marcos Alonso sitting there. Moving to Matt Doherty or something would seem blindingly obvious to me.
Let's talk about Burnley 1, Wolves 1. That late Chris Wood goal, penalty, wiping out any clean sheet points for so many people on double defence, and some even on triple Wolves defence. But Burnley's kind of run keeps going. They're doing okay.
Chris Wood wins the award here, which nobody will ever get, of penalty of the season. It's absolutely unsavable. Did you think it was a pen?
Soft.
I can't make my mind up. And that's really unlike me. I can't make my mind up on if it
Soft.
is or it isn't. So I can see both sides of the argument on this one.
Soft, I'd say. But yes, pen.
Firstly,
and the reason I'm also saying pen, because I didn't have any Doherty clean sheet points anyway, so sod it, give it, because it's not costing me any FPL points.
I sort of thought that a little bit as well. No Willy Bolly or Roman Saiz or Patricio in my team. Wasn't so bothered. What a goal from Jimenez. And talking of Doherty, that wins assist of the season for shooting wildly and it taking about a 10-yard deflection. Jimenez's body shape, wow, that's such a... I can't tell you how difficult that is. He is elite. He'd play for anyone.
This is the thing now, right?
Absolutely brilliant.
Based on his age, I think and what he's done since the restart, the consistency all season that he's shown this year and last year, I think this summer could be the time that he moves on from Wolves. I think a lot of people will look at it and be like, we either go and buy him now or we don't bother at all. Because once he gets to 30, I think he's 27, 28 now. I think once he's like in that 30 age bracket, you're not going to want... I don't think the big clubs are going to see it in the same light. And I feel like now they could potentially go in and put a 60 or 70 million pound bid in and get him. And so someone should, who needs a striker.
Age profile is going to put a lot of people off. And I imagine
it will. But that's why I feel like now, if you're going to get him now, or probably don't bother at all for one of the bigger clubs.
Wolves also have no necessity to sell the player.
No, they don't
at all. So I can't see. I'd be very surprised if someone came up with the money. There was some talk of United a few months back. Don't laugh at the back. I've even heard Tottenham mentioned. Feel free to laugh at the back, by the way. But no one's going to pay the money that Wolves would accept for him. I tell you what's interesting is off Premier League and fantasy is obviously Wolves and United can play each other in Europa League semi-final if they both progress that far, which I think secretly we're all thinking, yeah, I'd love to see that. Let me tell you, the one team that Manchester United will be glad that they haven't got to play in this run-in, and they'd be really delighted not to play in Europe, is Wolves. They do not want to play Wolves. And I think that fixture for Chelsea in game week 38 is a nightmare. I really, really do. There's a knock-on effect of a load of results of what could happen that might affect what you then see in game week 38. And this is another reason, again, why you lean to that. So, for example, if Wolves beat Palace on Monday, which we'd all expect, and Tottenham and Sheffield United fail to win this weekend, then Wolves essentially have qualified for next year's Europa League.
Correct.
And therefore, the game at Chelsea holds no importance for them. And that's quite viable. However, I just trust them in terms of the way they defend and the way Chelsea have struggled, even against, say, Norwich, really, to open up clear-cut chances. I think Wolves could really damage them on that final day. I mean, if Chelsea are relying on they're going to beat Wolves final day to get them in the Champions League, honestly, if you're asking me right now, I think Chelsea will lose both games.
Wow.
And I think they might still get into the Champions League. Because Leicester might lose both games as well.
With Wolves, obviously they'll get into the Europa. I think we can safely say we do think they're going to get Europa League. But then if they win the Europa League, they get Champions League. If they get Champions League, then I think Raul Jimenez will stay. 100%. I don't think anyone will then potentially go in and buy him. Why would you leave a club that's in the Champions League next season? So are you're currently just the Doherty owner. You've got Traore on your
Yeah.
bench. Is he just going to stay as bench fodder for game week 37?
Yeah, and the fact that he started over Doherty at wing back would put me off the idea of probably even having him first subs. I think he's probably the one that's actually, although I really think he could return in that game, particularly as well. Think now, obviously PVA's picked up a terrible injury, wish him well, dislocated shoulder last night. Whereas PVA is one of them, he's dodgy defensively, but he has got the yard of pace. If he switched on, it would possibly have helped. I mean, what they play out there now, I can't see them. We spoke about this kid, it's Tyrese Mitchell, who we spoke about before. Like, give him a chance. Not against Traore, mate. Fuck that. You'll kill the kid. He'll never play football again. So I don't know if they play Riedeveld there at left back. Would they even consider switching Sacco out to that position because it's a bit more physical if Traore plays out there? But they'll just switch Traore sides if they need to and have him come in centrally. So can't even prepare for it that much. So I think Traore is expendable for me. The really, really dangerous one for this weekend, it's not necessarily how you should treat your FPL team, is Jimenez. Because generally we joked about it at the start. There was a few people before lockdown saying, oh, you can't have Jimenez. Wife's going to give birth. I'm like, well, it ain't for about 6 game weeks. So I'll worry about that when it comes round. And we said prior to the Burnley game, I think it's going to be one of them where you just see the team and he's not in it.
Yeah,
is a possibility. So I would not be buying Raul Jimenez this week, genuinely off that. Personally, I just think it's a big risk. The one benefit for free hitters maybe is, look, you'll either play or he won't play. So then if your first sub's good, but then you might have other issues with United, City, etc. So Raul Jimenez, unfortunately, is a really avoidable one this game week because of something away from the football pitch. If she gives birth today and we get news, buy him. You'll be all that baby cup in Monday evening against Palace, mate. They shouldn't have any issues in that fixture. And for a differential captain this week, Matt Doherty's due a proper attack in return, right? And there's a potential clean sheet there. I really, really don't hate that as a mass differential captaincy option this week.
Man City 2, Bournemouth 1.
And Chris Wood for Burnley. We need to talk about it because everyone
we're going to buy him for a differential team.
Yes, we definitely are. I've spoken about Chris Wood enough, so I'm not going to repeat all that. But yeah, I would. If people can get there in one simple move, and there's one of your strikers you're unhappy with, like if you're saying go buy Wood or Jimenez, I'm saying go buy Chris Wood this game week.
Sure. Would Ings or Wood?
If it's one game week, Wood.
And if it's 2? Sheffield United at home is not going to be an easy game for Southampton.
Chris Wood, but then it's the potential that Danny Ings, if he has another good weekend, he can smell the golden boot, can't he? And Sheffield United were not good at Leicester yesterday, which we'll come on to in a bit. Just another one, obviously, it's quite a few people this will cover off a question, I'm certain. Have got Charlie Taylor, who's obviously got an injury, unconfirmed how long for now. But if people are looking for a replacement, do not look any further than Burnley themselves. Quite honestly, Peters and Bardsley at 0.1, 0.2 million cheaper is absolutely fine. Either will do the job. And Goodmanson is a mass differential this weekend, by the way. He could be a good alternative to the obvious McNeil choice if people are looking to go that way.
Let's talk about City Bournemouth then. We've got quite a few games to rattle through. City, I think when they scored early, which if these guys score early, it's so difficult to then try and find a way into the game. But Bournemouth did okay. I think this is a tale of a few games. Like even Palace did okay against Manchester United. Arsenal obviously beating Liverpool. Bournemouth, there's still these signs of recovery, isn't there?
Did you watch the game? Because I know that was your original plan.
Yeah. I watched this game.
I was obviously watching Spurs, so I've only watched like extended highlights and stuff. But I've looked into the data, etc. as well. Like it looks like they were really, really unfortunate not to win. The first team to outshoot.
Bournemouth.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would.
You tell me. You watched the game.
I wouldn't go that far that they were unlucky not to win the game. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Ederson pulled off some good saves. The one that came off Stanislas's free kick was really funny. It reminded me of Rodriguez's goal because he touched it onto the post. Obviously, Fabianski into the net in the end, but came back, bounced off the back of his head and went wide. That could easily have gone in. So he saved it, but in making the save, he could have easily have scored an own goal as well.
Yeah, fine margins.
Don't get me wrong. So I thought Bournemouth did okay, but City can up the tempo at any point. So what you're judging there is like a 3 out of 5 City versus a 5 out of 5 Bournemouth. Could City have cranked it up to 4 or 5? Yes. I mean, they noticed they needed that urgency, which is why Raheem came on, Bernardo went off the knee. Who else came on? Rodri instead of Gundogan to increase the speed at which they were moving the ball around. Yeah, I thought City should have won in the end, but Bournemouth, if they went and won their last 2 games, it wouldn't surprise me now.
They are the first team to outshoot Guardiola's Manchester City at the Etihad since Guardiola went there, and by a distance. They had 7 more shots than Manchester City. And as we'll talk about in the Newcastle-Tottenham game, you shouldn't overread what you see in shots because City still had 1 more shot on target than Bournemouth. But this was good. Do you know what this was like? This was a little bit, from what I've seen of the game, a little bit more of Bournemouth of old. Now, against City, you've got to retreat. You know you're going to have less of the ball. It's so much more about what you do with it. This team looked a threat. Is that fair, Suj?
Yes. Yeah, they're much better. But then you think like the 2 of their most threatening players, up front, you definitely say Callum Wilson and David Brooks only came on for the last 20 minutes. So, stick those 2 guys in, David Brooks especially, for a full 90. And I can see goals in this side. Stanislas, I've always been a fan of Stanislas. I think he's a decent player. I'd have him at West Ham. And Solanke
You did have him at West Ham.
I'd have him back at West Ham. Solanke was a flash in the pan. I don't think he'll score another goal again until 2022. But Callum Wilson should be in that team ahead of Solanke. I don't rate him. But other than that, I think Bournemouth can go on and win their last 2 games.
If you had to buy a David Brooks or a McNeil this weekend, who would you buy?
In real football or in FPL, James?
No, in FPL.
The silence is such great podcast listening. David Brooks. David Brooks.
I'd maybe agree with that. I think Bournemouth will stay away from an FPL perspective, but they are going to go for it. I think Bournemouth Southampton will be the best game you watch this week.
I have historical allegiance to David Brooks. So he's done well for me in the past, so maybe that's skewing my opinion on it. But I think I'd go David Brooks.
You're going to really upset Andy from Let's Talk here because, I mean, Andy's got to be buying McNeil this week playing Norwich, surely, hasn't he? Not mean to put the pressure on, but someone tell him and remind him. Unfortunately, I'd probably just generally stay away from Bournemouth. Even if I was free hitting, I think I'd ignore it. But I would expect both teams to score in that Bournemouth-Southampton game this weekend. Definitely. With the way Southampton play as well, and Bournemouth are going to try and counter on them at 100 mile an hour. It's a shame it's 2 o'clock on a Sunday rather than an evening kickoff, because it genuinely should be a great watch. And it's last chance for Bournemouth as well, isn't it? Irrespective of what the result is tonight, they know they've got to beat Southampton. Have to. Unless they lose a Man City battle Watford, and they might still have another chance.
What's your views on Phil Foden? Quite a few owners like me. I mean, his price isn't dirt cheap, £5.5 million, and he hasn't returned in a little while. I don't like him playing off the left. I think centrally or off the right is where he's better positioned to get in and get attacking returns. But when he's playing on the left, I feel like he drifts really wide out and is not quite in the heart of the attacking play as much as he can be when he's central or coming in off the right.
I think that's very fair, actually. I think he's better coming from deeper central positions in terms of his potential to be an FPL asset and also as a footballer in general. I think what you're finding with Foden at the moment is Guardiola's trying a few different things with him to get him ready for when that moment needs next year, where he decides, look, I want to play you in this higher position to play up against Trent, for example, or whatever, and damage him in different ways. I agree. You'd want him central. You'd want him alongside De Bruyne, coming in and meeting up with the forward player, generally in like a 4-1-4-1, for example. I think those who own, that is 5.5 million, what can you possibly get that's better at that price would be the first thing that I'd ask of anyone. Unless you're -4 in to take, I don't know, someone out, bad example, at Martial's level to get Mahrez, or you're taking Mane, Salah out to get Sterling. Is that even the right thing to do when you have no clue really if these guys are or aren't going to play against Watford on Tuesday? So I think you just sit there with it.
Yeah, I would. If I was going to do anything in my midfield, We talked about Pulisic. I was looking at Suchek, and the reason that I think Suchek is because of the price at 4.8 million, and he'll definitely play. Could be an interesting option. I think if anyone can cause Manchester United problems from West Ham next week, his lanky size on set pieces could be a problem. And that frees me up money. That frees me up 0.7 million to do something elsewhere. So that's what I was looking at. If I was to move away from Foden, only leaves me De Bruyne and Jesus though.
So let's just to clarify, you're saying that you would consider buying the Czech Marouane Fellaini to replace Phil Foden. Is that correct?
Incorrect. I would consider buying the Czech Patrick Vieira to replace Phil Foden.
You fucking idiot.
Oh,
Fellaini used to score a lot more than Vieira in his peak, in fairness.
Okay, let me ask you a different question, James. To someone in a similar boat to me. I've got Pulisic and Foden. I don't need both for the last 2 game weeks. I only need one. So one can be downgraded to someone a lot cheaper. So let me upgrade maybe Suyuncu to a defender that could play. Would you downgrade Foden or would you downgrade Pulisic?
I wouldn't move to Man City assets this week. There's no point. In my opinion. You've got no clue. We're all guessing. I just think moving one to the other because there's a frustration. And you know the returns will move from one to the other. One of the things I spoke on my stream yesterday was like all this theory about what David Silva's going to do on the last day against Norwich because it's his last game at the Etihad. People might be absolutely right, but it won't be his last game at the Etihad because we've still got Real Madrid to play there. And does Guardiola actually look at it?
Are they not all doing that in one location?
No, the Real Madrid's be at the Etihad, is my understanding.
And then everything else is
the
all
rest
in...
will be in Lisbon, yeah. But then does Guardiola look at it and go, oh, last chance to play at Wembley. I definitely want to play him against Arsenal. I won't risk him against Norwich. There's different theories, however you look at it, right? So we're all guessing. I would not, this week, with the semi-final before as well, so you haven't got the proper information. You got to guess Guardiola 2 games ahead. I would not be moving from one asset to another. If you want to sell one or buy one, fine, but I wouldn't move from one to the other. And it's exactly why as well, I think this is easier to read, but I wouldn't force through the move to try and get Martial either. I'm a bit frustrated with Greenwood after cut the blanks. What, like he can't go off playing against Aaron Cresswell? Yeah, he can. Come on. So I'm not going to force through those sort of moves.
Newcastle 1, Spurs 3. Kane is back. Kane is back. He's the best striker again in England, and he's going to conquer the world. Yeah. I'm still not looking at any Spurs assets. I'm still not looking at any Newcastle assets. Convince me otherwise, or tell me that I'm fine and we can move on.
No, it's okay. Before we talk about Spurs a little bit, Suj, tell me who was the best player on the pitch in the Newcastle-Tottenham game? And I know you didn't watch the game, but I'm asking you to have a guess.
Because I follow you on Twitter, I'm going to say Saint Maximin.
Okay, that's cheating a little bit. Don't follow me. It's weird. Alan St. Maximin, let me tell you, if you only watched the 5 minutes that were on Match of the Day, and this is the danger of this sort of thing, what you would have seen, all you will have seen is St. Maximin playing a nice ball out to the right, which Lazaro hammers into the side netting, and you would have seen St. Maximin give the ball away for the 3rd goal and probably think, no, that's about a 6 out of 10 performance. He was the best player on the pitch by fucking miles, mate. He was terrifying. You know when I say to you, sometimes you can feel how good a player is when he plays against you? Yep. My goodness. This really was taking the fuck out, man. This was Traore stuff that he was providing here. Literally bursting past people. And technically, he has it. He is much better than I thought he was. He is composure away from being an excellent, excellent player. And I think game week 1 next season, that price is going to be interesting. And if he's similar price to what he is now, I'd have a bet with you being my team game week 1 next season. What a super little player he is. And they're obviously going to get stronger if the investment comes, etc. He ran the game. Literally ran the game. It wasn't a case of, I'll give it to him, he'll fly down the flank. He was drifting into central areas, coming and getting it, and was running the football match. Man was showboating 2-1 down, saying, I know I'm going to murder you. What a player. Don't want to play against him again. My God, you imagine playing against him and Traore together. You just defend, you defend at your penalty box, mate.
It'd be a
Forget about it.
6-4 formation.
Absolutely brilliant. However, Newcastle were not. And Steve Bruce's interview after the game, where he looked like he wanted to cry, I said this on my stream yesterday, really amused me because he reckoned that was probably the best that Newcastle have played since the restart. Well, I'm glad I've missed a few of their other games then. They had a lot of effort on goal, but actually, in terms of efficiency, they're less shots on target than Tottenham, despite having about 25 shots. Most of them were wayward or blocked, lacked composure in the final third. And defensively, the Cells has now had an operation. Fabian Schär has done his shoulder. They can be targeted. The problem is that it's Brighton next, and you can't buy any Brighton players because basically Potter's worse than fucking Guardiola. So, like, you can't buy any Brighton players, in my opinion. Good luck guessing that one as well. But I tell you what, I don't mind attacking. I know you disagree with this, but targeting their Liverpool players against them in game week 38. They've got a problem defensively, a real big problem. Everything that you think you've seen with Newcastle over the last few years in terms of resilience, etc., it's not there at the moment.
Well, you're not scored 3 against them, so they must have problems.
that sums it up, right? No, it's a shame that they don't have 2 fixtures where it's more obvious to go and attack them, actually, because picking the Brighton player is bad. If you want a shout, I'd say Conley could well be a good shout for that game on Monday, but I'm not advising you to go and buy him.
Anything on Spurs?
Yeah, couple of things on Spurs. And I'll thank my friend Will Thomas here from Fantasy Football Hub. So, since restart, do you know which player has the highest XG since restart?
For Spurs or in general?
Nah, just general.
But it's probably a Spurs player based on the fact that the conversation we're having.
No, it's not actually.
Is it not?
No, well, I'll put you out your misery. It's Mikel Antonio. But then that's all in one game, right?
Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, his attempts have been...
The next highest in XG since restart is Mohamed Salah.
Okay.
Third is Harry Kane. In terms of shots in the box since restart, shots on target since restart, only Willian, who feels like he's had about 5 penalties, Aubameyang, Antonio and Salah have had more shots on target since Kane since restart. I want to know why everybody's not showing me his average touch position from Wednesday night. Why am I not seeing that all over Twitter? Because maybe this time he got a good delivery and then he buries it. It's the first good... Bergwijn's crossed the first good ball he's had since fucking lockdown. And he's still creating chances for himself. So look at them numbers, and actually I can see why people would want to buy Harry Kane with a depleted Leicester City and a Crystal Palace who are not playing well in the final 2 game weeks. You know what my advice will be. Don't do it. My point here is don't doubt Harry in front of goal. Spurs' best player for the first hour or so, by distance as well, was Lucas Moura on sheer effort alone. What a little performance he put in. He basically had as much involvement in 57 minutes as Heung-min Son did in 90, but the difference is at the top end, Son scores a brilliant little goal, which goes in the only place in the goal it can go in. I think Dubravka should probably do better, but it does go through legs, and we know keepers are going to struggle if that happens. Son is now only the 2nd player in the Premier League that has double figures in goals and assists this season. People are now listening to this going, fucking hell, is James recommending Spurs assets? No, I'm not. Please also understand there was a different system played on Wednesday night. This was not a 4-4-2, despite what you might be hearing from people. This was back to a 4-2-3-1. and Musa Sissoko started the game for the first 25 minutes or so in an attacking midfield position. I think this had two designs. One, greater power on the counter-attack. Remember, I said Spurs' weakness in this area in terms of not having strength, being able to counter-attack quickly. And two, I think actually the bigger picture was a little bit on saving legs. And I think the reason why it changed as well was the identification that St. Maximin was about to have a welding.
Yep.
And therefore, Sissoko went a bit deeper, and then Lo Celso switched. At times, they played as a 4-1-4-1, where particularly in the second half, Harry Winks went extremely deep, basically playing almost directly in front of the centre halves as a protector. It was Harry Winks' best game for Spurs since lockdown by a distance, and probably his best performance for a long time. Was very good on the ball. And what really pleased me on the game was because Winks was so deep and with the back four, we tended to play a lot of football during the game. And we did pass through lines quite well. I think a lot of that's more on Newcastle than Spurs doing anything spectacular. And I just obviously want to give a shout out to Serge Aurier as well for playing like fair fucking game under the circumstances.
Yep.
Can't, however, ignore the fact that the goal again is his responsibility. But fair dues for going out there and bar the mistake, he put in a solid and professional performance. Actually, fair game to him. He went to France yesterday. I don't know if he's going to be available for Sunday or not. It doesn't really matter because there are more important things.
Indeed. 5 games to get through still, James. Arsenal 2, Liverpool 1. Any changes on your thoughts on any Arsenal assets?
No, because people like Aubameyang and Nketiah were always going to be on people's radar for these last 2 fixtures anyway. I think Nketiah's probably a lock to play against Villa on Tuesday, bearing in mind it'll be the first game after the 3-game ban. I don't think it's going to work out for me, but I think Aubameyang will probably be in my free hit team in game week 38, for example, and I'll possibly have one defensively as well.
Yeah.
Although Martinez will comfortably do the job, but I'd be very tempted not to have him because you've got him and you'll have a decision to make on that particular game week, whether you want to play him or Fabianski, which I'm not going to know. So I might just go somewhere different and look at a more attacking option in terms of potentially.
You mean you're going to move away from the Pope?
No, well, that's the point. Why would I go Martinez and move away from the Pope, right?
Exactly.
I would look at a different Arsenal defensive option. I think Kieran Tierney's probably the best shout at the moment. I'm not advising by Arsenal players. This is talking about the potential for a 1-game free hit. And I think for those players, Arsenal were possibly advisable to just look at the one-off game. Because the great thing about the free hit is they ain't there afterwards, whether you do it now or in game week 38. So no, not my opinion hasn't changed on Arsenal. The one thing tactically was I thought Lacazette was great in terms of the way he played, and it was interesting the way they set up with Lacazette behind Pepe up front. And I think probably the majority of us saw the Arsenal team and went, what is going on here with no Aubameyang, etc. But they had a tactical plan. I think a lot of it was due to Tyre's legs as well, which I don't think was a lie from Arteta. I think they're going to be well off the fitness that he's demanding of them at the moment. So to bring people like Aubameyang and Willock on later in the game was a smart policy, really. And what they had with Lacazette, a little bit different towards Grealish basically man-marking when Villa played Liverpool. Lacazette's job was very much about cutting off passing lines and stopping Liverpool feeling comfortable in the game. And obviously the 2 goals come about, one because of pressure from Nelson and one because of pressure from Lacazette, with Liverpool being sloppy. And I think most teams just aren't going to go and play that way against Liverpool. And they've let themselves down. But particularly the second goal, Lacazette's ball and Nelson coming off the front to find himself the yard of space and finish was a brilliant little goal, actually. But I didn't read anything onto it to Arsenal. The other interesting thing, and it might be something you see against Man City at the weekend, was the fact that they basically ended up in a 5-5-0 at the end of the game. And for large parts of the game, it was in the second half, it became like a 4-4-2-0 with the 2 forwards playing really, really wide of each other to block up. Arsenal changed to a 4, it's worth saying. And I think that's the long-term project of where they want to go. Wouldn't be surprised if they go back to a 5 for the final 2 league games. It's very difficult to read teams when they play Liverpool and Manchester City to what they're going to do against other teams. So I wouldn't read too much into it. On Liverpool themselves, they're clearly having a bad day. Robertson's created loads of chances here and could easily have had a double point return. I'm pleased I've got him in my team. On Trent, I heard someone comment and say, he's not getting as far forward. Trent doesn't need to get far forward because he'll dink it over the top or cross it in from miles out anyway. That's his game. And I think Salah, Mane and Firmino are not at it as they would normally be at the moment. And that comes from a lot of the intensity of the surroundings at the moment. But if you've got their assets, genuinely, I would hold them. Genuinely, if you've got Firmino, I'd probably bin. But otherwise, anything else I would keep. There's no fault of mine to ditch Trent or Robertson or the two I've got at the moment. They'll stay for me 37. They probably won't be in my free hit for 38 because you've both got them. And therefore, I'll take a chance that they'll concede in that game. But no thoughts to get rid of them this week.
I'm with you on that on my Liverpool assets. I'm not selling Trent and I'm not selling Robbo. They've been so consistent. And I'm not looking at any Arsenal players right now, mainly because the one that I would want, which would be Aubameyang, I can't afford this week. So I'm not going to be looking at that. 4 games yesterday to rattle through. First up, Everton 1, Aston Villa 1. I never thought I would be as grateful to Theo Walcott in the rest of his football career as I was yesterday. Honestly, when it popped up as the alert, because I didn't see all of the game, that he had scored so late, I don't think I've ever been as happy with Theo Walcott in my life. That he got.
You mean you left me watching Leicester and Sheffield United when I really wanted to turn over to Everton Villa? You said you was going to watch it.
Yeah, I watched bits of it, but I didn't watch it sit down and watch it in the same way that I watched Palace. Man United.
Yeah, no, so did I. I watched the last 20 minutes of Everton Villa. I'm not stupid, mate. Everton are nothing at the moment. Nothing. That said, Calvert-Lewin could have very easily scored near the end of the game, and I think he's one I'll still consider on a free hit, 38, playing Bournemouth, particularly if Bournemouth have got to go for it. Richarlison was pretty quiet, what I saw of the game. I don't know if you think different of that.
Yeah, he always. I don't think I've ever seen him smile. Have you? There's a lot of footballers that when they're in a good mood, they're happy and smiling, and when they're in a bad mood, you can see it. He's always got an edge about him where he's looking for a fight or looking to get in amongst it or whatever. And I think so. Then it makes it hard to tell his frustration of is he just being mean because they did it to us. I've seen him play against us. I think I can't remember what the score was. What did they beat us? 1-0, 2-0 at Goodison, and he was all over it, destroyed us just with his aggression. And I'm trying to, I can't figure out sometimes whether he's being aggressive or being frustrated. But yeah, he doesn't smile much. This is Richarlison. I don't
only when he does that stupid chicken dance when he scores. that's about
True.
it.
True.
I think Calvert-Lewin's one to keep in the back of your mind for 38. You definitely wouldn't go near them ahead of playing Sheffield United. Those who went for Luca Dean, then he was quite advanced in the game, what I saw of it, which you might expect as they were obviously pushing for an equaliser towards the end. You're probably going to feel let down that they've conceded. Again, he might be another one that's a good one to consider for free hitters, 38, but not for this week. Villa, this was their chance, I think.
It really was, eh? And the psychological impact of thinking 3 points leaves us only 1 point away from Watford and West Ham. To then, it feels like it's a draw that feels like a defeat. That's the best way to describe it. And
it really does.
The thing is now they've got to go into Arsenal. If Arsenal lose against Man City at the weekend, which is what you'd expect, the outside chance of getting top 6 or what have you, Arsenal will want to beat Villa next week. And I think they will beat Villa next week.
I don't think that what happens in the Arsenal City game will have any bearing on Arsenal's game with Aston Villa in terms of Arsenal's want to win the game. Arsenal are points behind Tottenham. If Tottenham get beat by Leicester, Arsenal are going to know that beating Villa will take them above them. They'll also know that if Tottenham win on Sunday, that a defeat and they can't finish above Tottenham. And these things fucking really matter to Gooners. I'm bothered about trying to qualify for the Europa League personally.
I'm sure plenty will disagree, but yeah, go on.
They're allowed to. It's my show. I can say what I like. You wouldn't go near Villa assets from an FPL point of view. It just doesn't really matter. Although Reina and Martinez will get you 2 goalkeepers for 8.4 million if you're free hitting, for example. Grealish needs to pull something out the bag in these 2 games for them to have a chance, to be very honest. And he's nearly done it with the cross for, was it Trezeguet or I think it was El Ghazi on the back post at the end when it was 1-0 and it should have finished the game. But I think his final decision-making, and it might be because he doesn't trust his teammates, ironically, at the moment, he feels like he's doing a bit too much of his own. It feels like, to me, that he's a bit shoulders up at the moment, Grealish, like he's playing tense, like he's feeling the pressure of it. Because I think, and it's very difficult to advise to do this, but if he can relax and play his normal game, he can give Arsenal and West Ham problems in those last 2 games. Can Aston Villa win those 2 games? Yes. Will they? I don't think so. But they're not
agreed.
They're not dead, because they could win them 2 games, genuinely.
Let's touch on Leicester 2, Sheffield United 0, from really turning things around and looking really good. Sheffield United, again, flopped. I was trying to think of the words, but flopped, basically, James.
Listen, the beauty with Chris Wilder is you don't have to watch them to know how good or bad they've been, because he'll just fucking tell you anyway.
Yeah.
He basically said he wanted to hook every single one of them off the pitch at half time. And I don't think, for those who immediately think, oh, that means John Lindstrom's going to play on Monday, I don't think those who come on did any better. No. Leicester should have won this by more. They were very good. It's Leicester's best performance since the restart. I think they dealt, I went on the last podcast, I spoke about how the teams deal with Sheffield United, and I think Leicester did it better than most. The young boy who played at left back, who got the assist, I've forgotten his first name. It's Thomas. I've forgotten his first name. It will come to me. You can find it. He was good. 4.0. Thank you. He was really good, actually. Yeah, he gave them really nice balance on that side. Well, I think one of the things where I said I didn't like the system for them was 2 reasons. One, Fuchs at like left wing back, that just doesn't cut anything for me as a modern day wing back. And the idea of having Perez behind the front 2, it just felt like they weren't as dynamic as much. You think about Leicester at their best, like with either one of a Harvey Barnes or a Damari Gray flying forward. I see Albrighton's potentially out for the rest of the season. So is James Maddison, by the way. Albrighton being out, I think, might be a blessing for them. He's a really good player. He does
more with more attacking intent.
Yeah, he does great defensive work, but he's actually going to force them playing into a certain way. And what it kind of forced in here was, right, Harvey Barnes definitely back in the team, and it was far more of a 3-4-2-1 than a 3-4-1-2. The connection between players was much better, as highlighted by Vardy. And the one key thing that stood out for me, I know a lot's been made of Vardy's creativity in the game, more chances created than any other player in this game week, was that people were running beyond him. It's the first time I've seen Yuri Tielemans break into the box since about December.
What's your views on their
really
fixtures,
good to see that. Leicester?
Yeah, because they're going into Tottenham away, Man United at home. 2 tough games. Would you be buying any of their assets right now?
No. And I would, even though it's against us, I think there are better options than Vardy this weekend, for example. There are loads better. Not that Vardy can't score against us, and he probably will. He does seem to enjoy playing us. But there are loads of better options, in my opinion. And it will, if you go to an Ings or a Wood, who I would both consider better options this weekend, that's going to give you the 3 million difference. If you are desperate to go from Foden to Mahrez, for example, it could be a difference maker. So, no, I wouldn't invest in Leicester. For free hitters, Thomas is a great shout to sit on your bench, because he's going to play the 2 games. You're not going to need 3 Leicester assets. It'll do. It's just a playing player. I think in terms of Champions League, it will really hinge on what they do against us on Sunday. I think United, if they need to, will have too much for them in the final game at the moment, because I do have some sympathy in the fact that they're missing key players. But what happened yesterday was better in terms of the link between midfield and attack. Yep. Also in the wide players, because Thomas gave them a better balance. And Ndidi and Tielemans in centre midfield were very good. And that's been missing for a while, like what I said about Tielemans' direct running, and actually just trusting that Ndidi will solve the problems, which with three centre-halves behind you and a Sheffield United team that is not really going to expose you for pace and in central midfield areas, you should really be able to cope with. With Sheffield United, you need to fix the problem of the wide areas, and Leicester did that quite well during the game. They were much, much better. My instinct would be that Tottenham Leicester on Sunday would probably be a low scoring draw, would be my instinct.
Let's talk about...
Sheffield United's, you
Yeah.
can have them defensively because they're playing Everton next. Moving on.
But apart from that, John Egan at 4.7 or whatever will do the job nicely.
Play him this week, yeah. If you got any Sheffield United defensive this week, play it.
Yeah. Let's talk about Southampton 1, Brighton 1 first, and then we can wrap up with the Manchester United game. I didn't watch, obviously, because I was watching Palace Brighton, but Danny Ings on the score sheet again. He's 3 goals behind Jamie Vardy right now, and 2 games. I mean, his fixtures, he could go mental against Bournemouth.
He'll need to go mental against Bournemouth.
Yeah.
He won't. Jamie Vardy's going to finish top goal scorer now.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I think he's still going to want to go for it, right? That's why Danny Ings having that to go for makes him a very tempting sideways move from Raul Jimenez.
More tempting than that, in my opinion, is the fact that Bournemouth need to go for Southampton. That's more, and Southampton will play the same way. They've rested a few bodies, by the way, for the game last night. And you know what you're going to get from them, Southampton. High intensity, good game of football.
I don't think Bournemouth are not good enough on the ball to cope with that, Even City struggle to pass their way out of that situation. If they press like they have been with Redmond and Stevens and what have you, then I think they will be all right.
It'll be a fascinating watch because so much of this will depend on how good or bad Bournemouth are on the counter-attack in terms of the game itself. If they can counter-attack properly, they'll give themselves a good chance in the game. But they need to break that Southampton press to be able to do it properly. And as I've described, like without the ball, they basically go into a 4-2-4 and they come for you and they're brave. If you can break that first line, you can get at them. So Bournemouth need to do that in the first area. Probably need to miss out playing the ball into Lerma in midfield and get the ball straight into, if it's going to be Josh King and Stanislas wide, get it into those guys as quickly as possible is what I'd recommend. I think you're right, though. I think my instinct at the moment is Southampton will beat Bournemouth on Sunday because I think exactly what you said. I don't think they'll be able to handle it. There's nobody else playing like that at the moment. And it's a big ask when you've got a quick turnaround. Admittedly, it's 4 days after they've played Manchester City. And yes, Southampton have got 1 day less, but they're going to rotate some players. Danny Ings, I'm fairly certain, is not going to be one of them. I think Ings, Redmond are both great little shouts for this weekend. Stuart Armstrong as well, as cheap as, is about 5.2 million. By the way, I don't know what made me think last week that Dwight Gale was 4.0. He's a 4.2. He's not, by the way. Just come into my head. I think Southampton will win at the weekend. I think they're good options, Ings, Redmond, etc. I think Bournemouth will have too many issues with the press. And I think, actually, if Southampton score early, it might even be messy. But I think if Bournemouth can stay in the game, it could end up being a great, great watch, actually. Really looking forward to that one Sunday. Why is it always a good game on just before Spurs are about to play? It's quite annoying, actually.
I've been really impressed with Southampton, what they did to both Manchester clubs. So, I think Danny Ings for Raul Jimenez could be the transfer that I make this week.
Going back to the Manchester United game, though, for Bournemouth, is where I began to see the signs that there was a little bit of positive change in Bournemouth was from that Manchester United game. Then they showed resilience against Tottenham. Then do you know what? They had an unlikely go against Manchester City on the counter-attack. Then obviously it was the Leicester game in between before the City game where that second half was just a freak. No one knows where it come from. Southampton won't wilt like that, in spite of the fact how critical I've been of them. And Southampton should have won this game last night as well. I mean, second half, they had so much domination of the game. Matt Ryan's pulled out probably save of the season from Vestergaard's long-range shot. Danny Ings he's hit the bar, although it was ruled offside in the first half. He's hit the post in the second half. He's nearly laid on countless others. Danny Ings could have had a monster haul in this game. Owners should feel unlucky that they've only got the 1 goal out of it. And you know the great thing about him as well? You know when he's going through in that position now, he's going to score. He's composed, he's comfortable. Okay, I I take this on my weaker foot. I roll it in. He's got real confidence in what he's doing. And as I said before, I think he's really aided by the fact that people get close to him. And he's a better creator than people give credit. And he's got pace around him with Adams, Redmond. Armstrong's a good player. If those are the four, I suspect they might play Obafemi against Bournemouth, would be my instinct. But he'll still have people close to him. And he's a great shout for the weekend, Danny Ings. If somebody said to me, I really want to captain Danny Ings on this game week, I'm not going to say no.
Let's wrap up with the Manchester United game, and then James will try and squeeze in some Twitter questions as well. Crystal Palace did better. I think Lindelof should have been called up for a penalty. I thought that was a penalty. I hate these 2 inches VAR decisions. When they're talking in the commentary about, he was a couple of inches offside, they don't know that. Those lines are not accurate enough, and those pictures are too fuzzy for you to be able to say that someone is 2 inches offside, because you don't know, because you can't measure 2 inches on a screen like that with that level of fuzziness. So VAR is a different conversation for another day. I thought it was crap again yesterday. And Palace did okay. I can see Zaha was good and gave you could tell that he wanted to get one over of Wan-Bissaka as his ex-teammate. He was like, all right, you've gone on to Manchester United, I'm going to try and give you a tough time today. And he did okay. But when he does get fouled, he does really react like a kid, a spoilt kid. He's irritating. He's so irritating the way he reacts to when he gets fouled, like someone shot him. Messi gets fouled so much, just picks himself up and gets on with the game because he knows he's that good that he's going to get fouled. Like, if you're that tricky with the ball, it's hard for defenders, but he just cries so much that irritates me. But United, when they want to, I think Rashford and Martial's little partnership is really getting interesting. I was less keen on Marcus Rashford, I'll be honest with you. It's like that differential between Mason Greenwood and Marcus Rashford didn't seem worth it for me. But what I've noticed in the last 2 games, so I watched both of United's last 2 games, is Martial does drift quite a bit out to the left and comes in deeper. And what I didn't see previously was Rashford going in and filling that gap. Last couple of games and yesterday, Rashford will then go and actually fill that centre forward gap. But previously, he was hugging the left a lot more. And I was like, you can stay out on the left. I'm not picking you ever. But when he does cut in, he's good. And sympathy to Patrick Van Aanholt, because on the first goal, he got fucking sent flying without even having to touch the striker. Because when Rashford put his foot on the ball, he was gone. See you later. And the second, he did actually go flying and has dislocated his shoulder. But he showed up a few times there, did PVA.
Yeah, we wish him well. It was a bad injury.
Yeah, dislocated shoulder is one of the worst. It'll forever haunt you, you know?
I've got nothing to add on VAR. I mean, forget Asian Kevin De Bruyne and Asian Sean Dyche. I thought it was the Asian James Linden there, the way he was about to break off on VAR. I won't add anything more than what people don't already know.
One of the things with our podcast since the restart, James, is that we haven't gone all in on VAR when we could have. It's been garbage, but I think we've all gone beyond the point of what difference is going to make now, us ranting about it. We've ranted about offside and penalties and stupid handballs and everything else. It's just copy paste.
You know that good shag that I reckon Anthony Martial's now had?
Yeah.
I reckon Marcus Rashford assisted him. I reckon he probably bought her a girl.
Listen, trust him by knowing these footballers and some of the guys at
Rashford.
He was holding the camera.
Rashford and Martial and their link play is both schoolboy ever.
Do you know who it is? It's Manchild as well.
I'll tell him to fuck off. It's both exciting and frightening at the moment, and Rashford's looking for him. I thought the second goal was. I know Rashford takes the first so well. The pass for the second goal, it looks so simple. It's just so perfect. It's just a beautiful goal from Bruno's pass into Rashford. Is a nutmeg. So then Rashford's layoff is absolutely perfect. And Martial's finish is great. I thought that was a great goal. And it's the incisiveness on what they do. You can tell even little things at the moment, like when they're defending corners, they are ready to kill you. They are ready. Once that ball comes out the box, if they can win it, watch them, they fly forward, and because of the legs they've got and the pace, you ain't catching most of these guys.
But
They
yet, in the
are
last two games, they haven't been clinical or decisive like they have been. Like, yes, they weren't really going for it. I thought Palace did a really good job of defending against them, and obviously they didn't get the win against Southampton. So I don't think the last two games have been as good as the previous four. Let's say
no,
that's really nitpicking, isn't it? I feel like that's really harsh.
The overall is they weren't great last night at all. You could argue that Palace deserves something out of it. I mean, in my opinion, Man United's man of the match was De Gea. And we have to say that he put in a really good, solid performance in goal, because we've been very critical of him many times this season. Thought he looked more like the David De Gea of 4 or 5 years ago last night. Very good. Most of them you'd probably expect him to save, but at least he did save them. I thought Harry Mcguire had a really, really strange game. There was the one when Zaha got beyond him at the second half, where I think he became a little bit over-obsessed with the ball. And it's been unlike him. He's defended positionally very well this season. I thought there were aspects last night where he got really worried, particularly when Zaha came into his area. I felt like he went in a bit overly aggressive a few times. I'm not saying he should have been sent off or anything like that, but I think it was in his mind a little bit. I think they've still got much to improve defensively. Part of that with Mcguire might have been the fact that he had Fosu Mensah playing left back, who hasn't played for United in 3 years. So that might have been playing on his mind as well, and it's forgivable. But when they get in the final third, at the moment, it's devastating. Bruno, who didn't play well for me, could have easily had 2 or 3 returns in this game as well. It's going to keep continuing. Don't overthink. If there's an easy way to get to Martial or Rashford and you don't have either, I'd consider it. That for me is better movements at the moment than the moving of the Manchester City assets. But do I think it's worth a -4 to get off of Greenwood to Rashford? No, I really, really don't. I really don't. This is what I've said. Greenwood against Aaron Cresswell, this could be his game. And we're beginning to think the noises are that United's team against Chelsea in the Cup won't be as strong as we'd originally anticipated. And therefore, I wouldn't be surprised if, bar change at left back, it's the same team that played last night that plays against West Ham.
Yeah. A West Ham team that we've already mentioned will be safe by then and will have nothing to play for.
Wow. So. You're looking to get slapped, aren't you?
We're going to get battered by Man United, honestly.
Listen, I know that if you lose tonight, you are going to watch Bournemouth and Southampton on Sunday and Aston Villa and Arsenal on Tuesday, like through your fingers, mate. I know that.
If we lose tonight,
you're in trouble.
We are in trouble. Simple as that.
Yeah, it's not done. It's not done if you lose. If you lose tonight,
I felt like that all week, though, Jay. As soon as Villa and Bournemouth won their last games, not obviously this week, I felt like this is dangerous because the Watford game could go either way. That's why I still think, even from a Watford point of view as well, obviously they go up against City right next. I don't know who I'd rather, Man United or Man City, but let's see. So yeah, tough.
I think a draw tonight would be enough. I would be very, very surprised if you got beat tonight, actually.
Well, based on form, we should be winning this game tonight, James.
Go.
We've played Newcastle and our last game, I think Norwich, we played well. We were much better on the ball and stuff, especially Norwich. Newcastle, I was a bit moany, but we were better. So let's see.
Prediction?
For tonight?
Yeah.
3-0 to West Ham.
Fuck me, mate. You all right?
3-0.
Bloody hell.
Yeah. I think Watford won't score.
I'll see you in the garden in a couple of hours. You still got some spare, yeah?
Oh, dear, yeah. 3-0 to West Ham, I
will go for what I predicted at the start of this week. I'm going for 0-0.
I think 1-1 or 3-0 is either way, is the way it's
1-1 or 3-0.
Yeah.
Where's your sense in that?
If both sides, if we go for it and play well, we'll beat them. And if both sides don't have the intensity and are happy to settle for a draw, then it'll be a dull watch and it'll end up a 1-1.
the worst thing you might do tonight is go for it.
Yeah, maybe
honest, genuinely,
Saar
with
and
Decore, Saar, and Welbeck.
Yeah,
it might be the worst thing you do.
We'll see. We shall see. Let's rattle off a few Twitter questions, James. I know last time round we went well over an hour and a half. People enjoyed it in the bath and on their dog walks, but we have been going for an hour and a half, and we don't want to bore you forever. Righty ho. I'm sure it's hard now when we talk for so long to find questions that we haven't already answered.
Covered.
Yeah, but that's a good thing. Max at Fleece Poncho. I need a defender that can score big in game week 37. I'm thinking Richie. Is that too crazy? What are your ideas?
Oh, if someone's go big, is there any restriction on this? Does it say I've already got X, Y, Z?
No, that's the extent of the question.
So you start with Trent, Robertson, Doherty.
Doherty as the one that we mentioned earlier in the show that could be interesting.
I don't mind Richie as a different shout though, but don't expect a clean sheet off them. Genuinely don't expect a clean. They won't. I'd be very surprised they kept a clean sheet at Brighton. Very, very surprised. I would expect Brighton to beat them, but you can't go for Brighton asset because you have no clue what their team's going to be or even how they'll set up. But I would expect Brighton to beat them on Monday. St. Maximin, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned it when I was tweeting about him or not, but he did get a calf injury at the end of the game, so he could be out as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's their player gone. Defensive shout could go big this week. Kolasinac would be super brave. Oof. Super brave because he might not even play. Dear. Your kid at Leicester. I've forgotten his name already. Luke Thomas.
The fact that we're struggling. For me, it would be Doherty, but I don't mind Richie as a potential shout as well.
The other one, Wan-Bissaka, maybe. He's capable, I'd say, of a double pointer this game week.
We've got FPL Pessimistic Potato. After that monstrosity of a game week, my question is, which one of you, or at least someone, give me a cuddle, please? Do you like potatoes? I don't mind. I can't
virtual
promise
hugs.
that
We're social distancing. Here you go.
Well, it's a potato. If I do give you a cuddle, Pessimistic Potato, I can't promise that I won't nibble. Yeah, I won't eat you, but I'll have a little nibble. Yeah, there we go. KJ at KJFPL. Is Bruno Fernandes the single biggest difference maker winter signing that you have ever seen?
No, there must be better ones. First that comes to my mind, it's a long time ago now, is Cantona. Now, obviously, this was before January transfer windows, and it was a signing in December, but that kick-started a completely different era for Manchester United, which may have been coming anyway, in fairness, but I think of the impact Kanu had on Arsenal in 1999, although they didn't go on to win the league, but it had a really big impact on them when it probably looked like they weren't going to challenge Manchester United, and they got very close in the end. There's got to be better ones. There's got to be people who've had an impact and then have gone on to win the league. It's got to be. So therefore, I don't think it can be Bruno. But in terms of his performances and the impact on the team, yeah, I guess you'd have to put it right up there.
And the final question.
Start speaking so I can silent her.
Final question, James, is going to. I had it right in front of me. To at Palace Scout, Palace Ash. 38 game week 38 is a free hit incoming. So for game week 37 only, can I go from Olivier Giroud to Chris Wood, Mopé, or AN other?
Can you? I mean, yeah, of course you can. I mean, I genuinely would not hesitate for a second to go from Giroud to Chris Wood this game week.
Yeah, and Ings as well could be a potential consideration.
Yeah, I'm going to guess that he's possibly already got if he's not mentioned him.
Indeed. That's it, James. We've been through so many of the games. Not only have we looked at game week 37, we've given a bit of an insight into game week 38 strategy as well. Albeit there is finally, after ages, a little bit of breathing room between the end of game week 37 and game week 38, as opposed to having to record podcasts before game weeks are even finished. So there we go. Thank you for the questions that you did send in, and apologies that any that we didn't get to answer. As always, we wrap it on a little bit. If you're interested in more FPL content, then head over to patreon.com/Planet FPL. We produce additional content for our patrons as well. So, for example, yesterday we had a quiz about FA Cup semi-finals for our patrons. Today we'll be putting out a Game Week 37 preview where James and I will go into a little bit more detail about our specific, get my words out, James, teams and what we're planning in
Well
terms of
said.
transfers.
It's all right. You've been all that wacky backy thinking West Ham are going to win 3-0 tonight, mate. So
no, it's the beer that I've been drinking from our friends at Beer Nuts, a Siren Lumina.
that's
Tasty
even more
stuff.
concerning. It's 11:30 a.m., mate.
Yeah, it's lockdown, James. Lockdown.
Okay.
So there we go. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in again. And we'll be back at you next week with a bunch more content. Anything else to add, James?
No, just my deadline stream tomorrow won't be an hour before the deadline because I'll be doing my Champ Man stream at the same time. So the intention is to do the sort of deadline stream at 12 p.m. tomorrow on YouTube.
Excellent. There we go. Thanks again for tuning in. Stay safe as always. Good luck with Game Week 37. Ciao for now.
Be nice to each other, everyone. Good luck. Cue music, please, man child.